What's up, YouTube? This is your boy Thomas back again with another rendition of Truth Be Told. Now, this week I didn't see a whole lot going on in the news except for, uh, you know, the media is pushing the whole gun control thing issue again alongside the Democrats. Uh, and they're doing this on purpose by trying to, there's a whole bunch of more mass shootings. Oh gosh, we need more gun control. The ones that are doing this are criminals. They don't care about the law. It's not the guns that's the problem, it's the criminals. These people that are loony, most of them are far leftists. They need to be put away. It has nothing to do with the guns. Banning guns ain't going to do anything anyway because they're crooks, they're criminals. They don't follow the law. Duh. I'd rather have a gun to defend myself than let a crook be able to get one and fucking shoot me just because I didn't have a gun. This whole, just give them whatever they want bullshit is retarded. It's not going to stop unless you put them in their place. So yeah, it's not the guns, it's the people, and this shit for gun control is just dumb. I mean, it's worked so well for the UK and Australia, hasn't it? I mean, their fucking crime rate has gone through the roof since they banned the guns. And the crooks are still getting guns. Most of the crime is done by other means, other weapons now, but still, it don't work. So they need to stop advocating for more gun control. No, you need to start advocating for keeping people in jail, out of society. Freaking mental people. They need to stay out of society. The other thing I saw is they're pushing again for they're making shit up again about fucking people running over fucking protesters and crap like that again. I saw a couple of stories about that, and I'm just like, whatever. The far leftists like to make shit up and then play the victim all the time. Virtue signaling. It's gotten stupid. That shit needs to stop too. All this nonsense with the far left needs to stop because it's all bullshit. It's lies, every bit of it, and they know it. Regardless, anyway, that's all I really saw in the news. This stupid shit. Now, I want everyone to realize when I'm doing reviews and such for movies and television and stuff like that, I just give you some facts about the movie, whatever I'm talking about, and then I give you my thoughts or my opinion on the movie, and then I give you a scale 1 to 5, what I think about certain areas of the movie, and then I tell you where I recommend it or not. I am not one of these guys who writes out a whole script and then reads off a script and never shows their face. I mean, that's okay if that's what they want to do. But, I'm giving you just, an average Joe's view on the movie or television, opinion. Not someone who's written out a whole script and try to make, it funny or some crap like that. I'm just giving you an honest review. What I really want to talk to you about, the first one is, I went ahead and checked out that TV series, the new one called Loki. Now, I don't know a whole lot about the Loki character, except for, what most other people know is, he's the half brother of fucking Thor and blah, blah, blah. It ties into a lot of Greek, or not Greek, sorry, a lot of Norse mythology. Um, he's supposed to be like the god of mischief or whatever. Now, there are a lot of people on YouTube, a lot of YouTubers have already gone over this shit with Loki. I'm not going to go into detail. I'm just going to give you a little bit of my thoughts on it. First of all, anything that Marvel puts out anymore usually turns to shit. Only because they don't follow the source material. They make their own shit up and then, sprinkle, I call it sprinkling, bits of truth or backstory to a character or story. And it's not the same thing. They screw it up every time. Like I said, I don't know much about Loki. When I watched the episode, at first, I watched it and I was like, well, that wasn't that bad, even though I didn't know exactly a whole lot about what was going on, the TVA and all that kind of shit. However, anytime, a story involves time travel or something to do with time or multiverses, they tend to screw it up a lot because they can't get their timelines right. They basically, and I agree with some of the other YouTubers, they basically made it to where everything in the universes don't matter. All that matters is that particular universe where the TVA is from. And that these three lizard-looking dudes are supposed to be the all-supreme beings that stopped a multiverse war from happening and put all the multiverses together in one strand, and they're supposed to keep shit from branching off and making new fucking multiverses, which makes no sense whatsoever, because basically, in one sense, I understand, but then I don't understand, because like Loki takes the Tesseract and fucking goes a different way when he steals it, but apparently there was a Loki that was still there and followed the timeline of what Loki was supposed to do. So basically Thanos was supposed to wipe out half the universe, but they didn't interfere in any way, and that was supposed to happen, but Loki just takes the Tesseract and escapes, and that's not supposed to happen. It makes no fucking sense. It's retarded. They're supposed to be protecting the multiverses and shit like it's really confusing and dumb. And I completely agree that all of a sudden, there are no more powerful beings. It's all just them three main guys. It's just dumb. It makes no sense. And that's not the case according to the source material. They are not the most powerful beings in the Marvel universe. So again, it makes no sense. I found it interesting, but at the same time, it wasn't all that great. It was okay for a first episode, but we'll see how it goes. That's my thoughts on it. That they're really screwing up already. They're not making any sense. The next thing I really want to talk to you about, I just got done watching here a few days ago a movie called Army of the Dead. Now this is a Snyder film done for Netflix, and I'm not a big fan of Snyder. Everything he does is really dark and gloomy, and it just, I don't know. He's not the greatest of storytellers. He could do some special effects, but that's about it. Anyways, the movie did. It reminded me of like Ocean 11. Add some fucking zombies in there, and that's literally you got them. You got the entire movie and the plot. It was kind of dumb, to be honest. It really was. This Japanese dude hired Dave Bautista and tells him to get a group together to go pull out some money out of this bank or vault inside of Vegas, which is now been overrun by the dead and been closed off. I don't know. They don't really explain where the first guy came from, except for, it has to be some experimental shit with the army. The so-called King Zombie, whatever you want to call them. It does not follow any of the George Romero movies. Don't even buy that bullshit, because it doesn't. It's way off. It's like a completely different story. I didn't recognize any of the actors really, as far as being well known, except for Dave Bautista and Ella Purnell, which plays his daughter. Oh, that woman's gorgeous. Anyways, those are the only two I really recognized as being fairly well known. I had seen a couple of the others, maybe in one or two things before. Like, I recognized the Japanese dude. I recognized his bodyguard. I've seen them in maybe one or two movies. I don't know. The only reason I recognize the pilot, the chick or whatever, is because she's off that damn stupid ass woke Discovery, Star Trek Discovery. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known who she was. I recognized the one that played Chambers, the Latino chick. I recognized her. I didn't know who was the woman that was, into Dave Bautista. His, almost girlfriend. I didn't know who she really was. But I'm pretty sure I've probably seen her before. And then the last one that I actually recognized was the other one, the one that played the soccer mom or whatever. He literally kills her character off pretty much at the very beginning, which kind of irritated me, because it was leading up, at the very beginning, she's after her daughter, trying to find her daughter. Shit goes down, and she's trying to find her daughter, and Dave Bautista and all them, they join up with her and help her out, trying to look for her little girl, and they eventually find her. But you see her grow up from being like this social mom, soccer mom, into this, zombie survivor, badass chick or whatever, And I'd seen her before. I recognized her, but I think I've seen her in a couple of movies too before. But it really irritated me. He killed her off right at the beginning. I wanted to know more about her, to be honest. But whatever. She just seemed like a really cool character, interesting character, and she killed her off right at the bat. Anyways, everyone gets wiped out in this movie. The zombies really don't make no sense, because now they're part of some alien DNA bullshit. They're not even real zombies. It's like a hybrid of an alien virus or some crap that the government was experimenting on. So that was dumb. So they're not actually zombies. They're alien DNA. Zombie alien DNA. I don't know. It's weird. It makes no sense. I mean, you'll see it because half the time they're what they're calling alphas. They'll kill them, and then blue blood comes off. Glowing blue blood comes off of them, and they're actually alphas. But the only way to create alphas, the king zombie has to create them or bite them. Ooh, dumb. It's dumb. But yeah, it was okay for an action flick, but as a horror flick, not even close. Like I said, it's more of an action flick. It was okay, worth a watch, but it wasn't the greatest of the movies. It's okay. I give it a thumbs up, thumbs down. I'm not a big Zack Snyder fan, and that's my thoughts on Army of the Dead. All right, Movieholics, let's get on to your B movie reviews. This week is Horror Week. We got two horror classics, super cult classics to review this week. Both the first one and the sequel to The Return of the Living Dead. Now, the first one was done in 1985. It made about 14 million worldwide, which wasn't too shabby for comedy horror back then. It starred James Karen and Tom Matthews, who also star in the sequel as well. However, they play completely different characters in the sequel. Now, the leading lady in this movie was Beverly Randolph. She played Tom Matthews' girlfriend. The story basically, you have Tom Matthews. He shows up for a new job. His supervisor is James Karen, and they work for a medical warehouse, storage warehouse. They have a cadaver hanging up in like this meat locker inside this plastic. And then they have a bunch of other stuff out inside the warehouse, like prosthetic arms and crap like that, and half-cut dogs. That I don't know, some weird medical crap all in the warehouse, skeletons, stuff like that. James Karen, his character Frank, tells Tom Matthews' character Freddie some little ghoulish story about the 60s that the army covered up this undead thing or whatever, the event that actually happened. And of course, he's referring to George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead. If you don't know, this is actually supposed to be like a spoof or a goofy movie, like a spin-off off of the George A. Romero's movie, Dead series. As I say, it was supposed to be just a spoof, but it did so well that they made quite a number of sequels. Uh, and they had a lot of original ideas in this that Romero didn't use at first. That they did though. I'll get to those later on to explain those. Anyways, back to the story. Frank decides to show Freddy some barrels that supposedly came from the Army disposal unit that was supposed to destroy all the evidence of The Walking Dead. But supposedly the Army goofed up and sent it there instead. And now the Army don't know where these barrels are at. You see this when you see the scene with the Colonel and his wife explaining that he doesn't know where they're at and whenever he'll find them. He doesn't reference the barrels, but you know what he's talking about. Anyways, Frank hits the side of the barrel, claiming the Army makes it foolproof, and of course it cracks it, and this gas starts spewing out of the barrel. This green gas. It knocks them out, makes them sick. Now there's a emergency number on the side of the barrel. If they had called it right off the bat, none of what happens would have taken place, but they didn't. They called the boss after the cadaver in the meat locker room reanimates, is the way they put it. They call the boss. The boss comes. He doesn't want anybody knowing what's going on because he's afraid he'll lose his business and his license and everything else. So they let out the cadaver in the meat locker and then chop him up because they thought by putting a hole in the brains or shooting the brains it would kill the zombie. Now that's a new concept that was introduced at first time. Taking out the brains doesn't work. You can chop it up, and every part of the cadaver will continue to animate. Now, at the beginning, another thing, at the beginning of this movie, they put a little silly disclaimer that all the events in this, it's based on a true story, and all the people's identities had been hidden to protect them. It's so dumb, but they do put that at the beginning. I didn't remember that when I first saw it years and years ago when I was a kid. It's been a long time since I've seen these movies. But anyways, that's why I had to refresh myself. But anyways, the boss chops up the cadaver, and then they take the cadaver over to the mortuary, which is just right next door to the cemetery, which is, of course, is next door to the medical supply warehouse. While they're doing that, Freddie's girlfriend, she brings a bunch of Freddy's friends, and they're all partying in the graveyard. They don't know what's going on. Now, they're waiting for Freddy to get off work so they can go hang out. But apparently Freddy's heading over to, taking this corpse over to the funeral home. There's a funeral home next to the graveyard. They take it over there. There's this guy named Eddie, which you might recognize. He's been in several movies. Anyways, they decide to burn the corpse, cremate it, when they cremate the corpse, of course it releases the gas again, and it starts to rain. So the gas goes out the chimney and then basically rains down on the group that's Freddy's friends that are partying outside and his girlfriend, and rains down into the graveyard. Now, what happens is the corpses all start coming out of the graveyard, of course. They start attacking the Freddy's friends or whatever. Half of them get trapped inside the funeral home, and there's a few others that end up going to the warehouse and getting inside the warehouse to escape the zombies. Now the zombies, another idea that was introduced, is the zombies are not slow in this movie. They're actually fairly fast. They're running. So that was another new concept that was introduced. As I'm saying, these barrels are 15 years old that they released the gas from. I don't understand why they didn't call the emergency number. It was kind of dumb because they could have, you know, prevented a lot of people dying. But they're dumb, and they had to continue the story, so that's why they did it. The funeral home, they kind of slip in a joke. Eddie is asked what's the name of the funeral home. Eddie's the guy who runs the place. He slips in a joke. He says it's called the Resurrection Funeral Home. So, you know, they slip that in. If you don't pay attention, you don't recognize some of the jokes and stuff. Another new concept is that the zombies are not dumb. They are intelligent. You see this when they meet the original zombie coming out of the barrel in the scene where Freddy's girlfriend's hiding from that zombie inside a locker or whatever. The zombie takes, or closet, I'm not sure which it is, but the zombie takes this chain on a pulley and wraps it around the door so he can yank open that door with the pulley and chain. The zombies also talk intelligently. That's another new concept. You see this with the scene when they bring in the ambulance and the cops. The zombies are using the radios and telling them to bring more paramedics and cops. My only question is, I've always wondered this, if they get their brain eaten, if a person gets their brain eaten by a zombie, how are they able to function as a zombie if their brain's gone? Like, wouldn't they be brainless and just corpses flopping around? That don't make no sense to me. But yet, you see them all the time, they eat the brains, and then next thing you know, that person's a zombie. Well, if they ain't got no brains anymore, how are they a zombie? How can they function? I don't know. Anyways, I've always kind of wondered that. Alright, back to the story. As I said, they're either trapped in one of the two buildings, the warehouse or the funeral home. Now, Freddy and Frank, they get sick, and of course they turn into zombies. Freddy tries to attack his girlfriend and eat her brains. Her and Eddie end up going up in the attic and trapping themselves in the attic. The boss and the black guy, they end up getting out of the funeral home and heading over to the warehouse. Frank commits suicide by burning himself up. Freddy eventually does get up into the attic, but he doesn't quite make it the eaten brains. The other two that make it to to the warehouse, they finally call the number. The boss calls the number, and the army, the colonel gets a hold of it, and the army sends a tactical nuke that blows up the town. He says 4 to 8 blocks or whatever, and he kills about 4,000 people or so. So nobody survives in this movie. That's the end when they nuke them. And supposedly that's supposed to be the end of it. But because the movie did so well, they decided to make a sequel. Now, like I said, because they were hits, these movies at the beginning were hits, they kept doing sequels. Of course, next is, Return of the Living Dead 2. Well, before I get to that, as far as story-wise, I give it a 4 because it was new, fresh ideas. Even though it was a comedy horror, yes, it was cheesy and campy, but it was a good idea. The movie was fun. Now, as far as the acting-wise, the acting was actually fairly decent. I'd give him a solid 3 for the acting. The acting was pretty good. Special effects were actually really good. I give it a -4 because it was really good for what it was. Yes, again, it was cheesy, but it looked really good. It made the movie or the story move along. I like that when I could see special effects that I know that are kind of cheesy looking, but it makes the story go along, and I don't really pay much attention to special effects. I'm like, okay, that's all right, that's good. So overall, the story, this new idea, new concept, one of the best zombie flicks ever made. I definitely give it a 4. I highly recommend it, and I give it 2 thumbs up. Check it out. You won't be disappointed. The next one, of course, is Return of the Living Dead 2. Now, at the beginning of this one, they explain it's the gas or chemicals called trioxin. The army created it and had several failed experiments with it, and they tried to get rid of it, but all they could do is contain it. Now, one of these barrels falls off an army truck at the beginning of the movie, falls into like this underground bridge with a waterway in it. It gets trapped up in there. Now, there is a set of houses that are being developed next to the cemetery. The barrel is near this. Some kids find the barrel, 3 of them. One of them, the other 2 kind of bully, and he runs away to the graveyard. The 2 other boys, the bullies, they go back. After they had already found the barrel, they go back. They knew all that was in it was a corpse, but yet they go and open it anyway, which made no sense. Why would they go back to open it if all that was in it was a corpse? It made no sense. Anyways, they open it, the gas releases, gets to the graveyard, makes them sick. They go home, they're sick. They'll, of course, eventually turn into zombies. Now, at this point in time, they focus on the main bully, which is his name's like Billy or something. You see him for the rest of the movie. The other kid, they don't ever show him again. It's like he just disappeared. He's done, which made no sense. But anyways, the little kid, he eventually finds his way back home, but only after James Karen and Tom Matthews, they're new characters. They play totally different characters in this movie, but it's the same 2 guys from the first one. They're playing graveyard diggers. And of course, Suzanne Snyder is the lead female in this one, and she plays Tom Matthews' girlfriend. Now, the graveyard, of course, the gas goes into the graveyard, raises the dead, and they all run out of the graveyard to these new homes being built, the neighborhood that they're being built. Now that makes no sense because they don't run to the van and haul ass out of there. They run to these new homes being built. It's kind of dumb. They should have just gone to the van, but they didn't do that. But go figure. Now there is a cliche in this movie. They do it in almost every horror movie when someone's chasing them. They fall or trip a couple of times. It's the dumbest thing. They do it almost every horror. It's so dumb. I wish people would stop putting that in horror flicks. Really, it needs to stop. Okay, these three, they all end up at these new homes being built. This area where all these homes are being built. They try to steal a van from this cable guy who just happens to show up at night to fix the little boy's sister, older sister, the cable in the house. The parents are gone for some reason. They don't explain what's going on there. You would think the parents would be trying to get a hold of their kids if all this was going down. They knew about it, but it never references that. They just leave them behind. It makes no sense that their parents would do that. The army surrounds the place. They cut off the whole town. They evacuate most of the town. The boy tries to call the army but gets cut off because the three idiots, they run into the telephone thing or whatever. It's not real. It's like a big box in the neighborhood, and they cut out all the phone. So he never gets a hold of the army. They eventually they run from the neighborhood because all the zombies are coming, and they get into this doctor. They go to this doctor's house and get in his car, take his car, and run out of the neighborhood. Now, the girlfriend starts claiming that they need to take the other two to a hospital because they're really sick and they're showing signs of some type of infection. They drop off the boyfriend, or the cable guy who eventually becomes the boyfriend, and the girl and the little boy and the doctor. They end up at the hospital eventually, and they're making references to the first movie, Tom and James is, that this all seems familiar, like they've done it before. So they're making references to the first movie, their old characters. But anyways, they all get to a hospital. They get this brilliant idea to feed the zombies and lead them to the electric company where they electrocute all of them after they electrocuted one earlier. They figure out how to kill them that way. So that's what they do. And that pretty much ends the movie. They make it out of there alive. The army comes rolling in to pick up the scraps. Okay. It don't make no sense. You'd think they quarantine them for a little bit or something, but no, they just let them walk on out at the end of the movie. I was just like, okay, that made a lot of sense. But it was cheesy, campy, fun. A lot of stuff happens in between. It's just really cheesy. But it was a fun movie too. Now, it wasn't as good as the first one, I don't think. It was a more humor in it than horror in this one than the first one. Later on, after this one, the sequels tend to get a lot darker. They take it a little more seriously. Not as humorous, which kind of disappointing because I like the comedy horror. I thought it was pretty cool. I'm not sure if I mentioned that this was done in 1988 and it made about $9 million worldwide. So it did fairly decent. Not as good as the first one, but not too bad. Not too shabby for a sequel for back then. As far as the acting wise goes, definitely a solid 3. You had some pretty decent acting going on in this movie. The story wise, yeah, it was a little cheesy. I'll just give it a 3. It was a decent story. I give it a good 3. Special effects were really good. I give it a 3 plus. Overall, this movie, again, one of the better zombie movies out there. I definitely give it a -4. I give it 2 thumbs up. You should definitely check it out if you like zombie flicks. Good movie. Both these movies were really good. Check them out. Anyways, if you have any thoughts of what I said earlier in this video, please leave your thoughts down in the comments down below. If you have any suggestions of underrated movies you think I might not have ever heard of or seen, some B movies or cult classics, please leave down your suggestions down in the comments down below, and I'll get to reviewing them as soon as I can. Anyways, that's all I have for you this week. Until next time, I told you to be told the truth, and you just been told.